Okay, sorry about that. Back to the share. So these are great questions. This is exactly what we're here to discuss. What else do you guys have?
This may be a little basic, but since I'm coming into this for the first time, could you maybe just quickly describe the content of the 3 sessions you're offering? What we're trying to tackle tonight versus what's coming up tomorrow morning, and then I think there's another one next week. There are 3 different kind of meetings.
Yep, the 3 help sessions, you bet. And I'm going to move that one to the top. That's a great way to start. Okay.
So we did a trial run with our team earlier this week, and some of the members that were on the call reported that they were getting choppy video. So I don't know if you have any tips for how to ensure good video quality.
Yep. Okay. Wonderful. What else?
I would kind of piggyback on top of that as far as the audio quality, because it seems, I don't have anything except anecdotal evidence from listening to the presentations from Mark and so on, just to get an idea of them. It seems like it's pretty faint coming over my machine. And so if I'm going to share the desk or my screen with people online, I'm really not sure if they're going to be able to hear it.
Okay. That's great. Good
Is
question.
there a difference among this group about how you present the program? I mean, do you come together and present the program virtually as well, or are people expected to view the program on their own and then come together virtually for the discussion? And maybe a bullet point there is, at what size of group do you decide to go into subgroups versus just maybe keep it all as one group? You know, 10 men, 20 men, 30 men. At what point do you say you need subgroups?
Okay, super. Great questions.
This is a technical question about Zoom. I can't get the meeting invitation to be a hyperlink. It's not clickable.
Okay. I can show you how I do it.
Okay.
And we can see if it looks like the same process or a different process. And then if needs, we could have you share your screen and show me how you're doing it.
Sure.
But we'll dive into that. Okay,
How
good.
about people, this is Wayne again, how about people joining late? So if you watch the video during the week and you want to come into a group session, we do go early Saturday morning. If someone doesn't want to start at the beginning, if they enter and we've already broken into groups, can they access one of the small group discussions automatically?
Yep, great question. You guys are going to make me work tonight. I love it.
This is Dennis up in Wisconsin. A more basic question. How do we keep the men engaged working through Zoom? We've tried Zoom and worked it in the past, and we saw pretty significant drop off in attendance. People just didn't seem to gravitate to it. Any best practices or tips?
Okay. We've got some, and I can share some. And the other thing we can do is go back to our PC team. They've actually been compiling them, so I don't have the list in front of me, but we can talk a little bit about that tonight for sure.
Thank you.
You bet.
This is Charlie Blancato from Orlando. I was thinking that we're going to create the Zoom link and then put it into that global email that we use, put the email in there. I mean, will I just be able to do that and it'll send it out to all of my participants?
Yeah, in short, I can answer that. Yes, is the answer. Just like you would include customized messaging in the weekly class emails, you can put the Zoom link in as well. The only difference is we've created a second set of email templates specifically for the virtual meetings. And if you want, we can log on and I can show you that.
Okay, Brian,
Yes.
I've got a question. This is Joe. I've got a question about the application. Not everybody necessarily would have Windows 10. Is there any plans on coming up with a version for Windows 7? And also, what about Chromebooks?
Okay, so which application are you referring to there specifically?
The one that the core team uses to access the videos.
Okay, so that's the Paradisus Day video player.
This is the video player.
Okay. And then Chromebook as well you had asked about.
And never the Chromebook. One of our core team members only has a Chromebook.
Joe, what's your email address?
I'll send you in a chat.
That's great, thank you. I may need to get you some information later, and I want to make sure I can do that. Okay, anything else before we dive in? This is great so far. All right, can everybody see this list of questions okay, or do I need to make it bigger?
No, it's fine.
Looks good.
Okay, so really simply, the 3 help sessions. The first one is the TMIY virtual process. That's what we're doing tonight. And that's going to walk through the virtual process, answer the questions that you've asked, etc. The second one is on TMIY marketing toolkit. And essentially, since so many classes are in the position of needing to do virtual or hybrid, we've created an online toolkit to help you promote the program. You know, according to our core team manual, nothing's changed. The personal ask is still king. Nothing trumps the personal ask. But because now you have the ability to do it virtually, you can get the word out in a lot of different ways, and people might be attracted to that. Believe it or not, that was one of our key learnings from the spring. We actually had guys who weren't able to participate in person that said they could participate virtually. And so our marketing toolkit is just giving you extra tools that you can utilize to spread the word. So that's the second help session. The third help session is what we call technology. And there's 2 things there. There's video and session technology. The video technology is going to take a deeper dive into this Paradisus Day video player. And then the session technology is just making sure everybody understands what cables and connectors and things like that you might need now that we're not using DVDs. So in other words, to go from your computer to the projector to get the sound out of it, some of your physical connections might be different. Does that help? Okay.
Yep, it does.
Wonderful. I'm going to try to answer some questions quickly, you know, that aren't going to need to be addressed going through the program. The hybrid program, we're going to get to that. How to keep the groups together, we're going to get to that when we cover the Zoom breakouts. So we've got video and audio quality. At what size of group do you decide to go into subgroups? This one might be quick. The simple answer to this question in my mind is the ideal group size is 6 to 8 guys. Okay, but that also, that also assumes that you have a facilitator that is trying to engage all the guys in the group, that you don't just have 1 or 2 people kind of monopolizing the conversation. So I'll show you when we go into subgroups in Zoom how to set the subgroup number. And there's 2 ways to do it. But I would say if you have more than 8 guys, that's when you should start thinking about breaking into smaller groups. The other thing I'll say, just from a facilitation aid, and somebody mentioned, you know, how do you keep guys engaged with Zoom meetings? You probably all heard the term pregnant pause. In Zoom meetings, the role of a facilitator becomes even more critical. So actually designating somebody, like I see a few people on my screen at the moment, you know, Charlie Blancato, what do you think of that? You know, Father Tim, what are your thoughts? You might need to be a little bit more direct. And the other thing is pose a question and let it sit. Even if you guys are comfortable with each other, generally speaking, people aren't comfortable with silence. So somebody would likely jump in. And when I say let it sit, I'm talking even 30 seconds, which can sound like or seem like an eternity when you're waiting for somebody to answer.
People don't think your Zoom is frozen up.
Well, that way you can see, you can vogue, to let people know that you're not frozen.
Well, I asked just that. Is it? Are we frozen? And then right away it breaks the.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorites is, hey, not everybody at once.
And I think it's the same when you do get into the subgroups. There's always guys that are a little quieter than others, and as facilitators, you're trying to pull them in. And like you said, it's very similar when you get on the screen.
It is. The one thing I found in doing a lot of, I used to run an outside sales team for our Sunday Visitor, and we did a lot of, I think at the time we were doing go-to meetings. And boy, you had to be really good about, designating who you were looking for a response from, or if it was open to anybody and that kind of thing. And so I would call the role of a facilitator in a Zoom group really a working role. You're not just kind of launching the first question and then sitting back, maybe like you would in person. You're really you're kind of like the, the guy running the orchestra, right? And so that's the biggest thing I think you can help your small group leaders understand is it's a little bit more hands-on in the virtual.
And kind of watching when you see somebody wants to say something, but they haven't verbalized it yet, so that you can kind of proactively call on them when that next person stops talking. That's
good. And another trick, a lot of times people look like they're about to say something. Maybe somebody else will jump in and then you're going to be polite. But to give the group permission to say, listen, if you had a point to make, but it related to a topic that you feel like we've already moved past, feel free to say, well, Vince, back on the other point, and then, kind of lay it out there. A lot of times in the normal ebb and flow of conversation, people don't feel comfortable doing that. But I think in a Zoom context, and especially to keep guys engaged, giving them that permission could be very helpful. And especially if they feel a stirring, like they want to share something. So anyway, any other questions on the size of small groups or the size of a group before you break into small groups? Okay. So we got Zoom technical question. Okay, people joining late. This is really simple. I can answer that one. Yes, they can join the meeting, and whoever is designated as a Zoom host, if they don't go into their small group automatically, and I don't believe they will, they can see that they've joined the meeting and then assign them to their small group.
Who does that assigning to that small group?
The host. In other words, whoever Zoom account you're using.
So wouldn't it be difficult for the host to also be a facilitator then?
Yes, that's a great question.
People coming in, I see the host has to almost constantly monitor new people coming in.
Yes. So we just ran, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, the Missionaries to the Family Retreat, which ideally would be done in person. And we did it virtually for obvious reasons. And I was the one running all the tech for that. And that was my only job. And so sometimes Steve would be speaking to a group while another group of people were doing a small group session. And what we would do is we'd actually have two Zooms running off of different computers. And then the small group session, we would start all those people in large group. There would be kind of an explanation of what the small group exercise was. And then we'd break them into small group sessions. And for any number of reasons, right, people would drop off. Maybe their internet at home would go out. Maybe they would go to mute themselves, and instead of clicking mute, they'd click end, and they'd get bumped out of the meeting. Well, when they would jump back in, they would join think of it as the main room, which is where I was, and I would see them jump back in, and then I would there's a little interface, and you just place them back into the small group room. So it works the same way. You have everybody together, you click to activate the breakout rooms, everybody's in their breakout room, somebody jumps on, you see them, and they call it the main room, and then you can assign them.
Hey, Brian, can I jump in for a second?
Yep.
Just a little comment about Zoom and hosting and breakout rooms. What I have found out using Zoom for working is I'm a tutor at a community college, and we're using Zoom for tutoring sessions using breakout rooms a lot. And what we have learned is that the host cannot go to a breakout room. So you are going to have one small group session in the main room.
So actually, that doesn't match my experience. My experience in that Missionaries to the Family retreat, which by the way was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so I was doing Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting for each segment, is that I could actually jump into the small group rooms, and in fact I did, to check to see how the discussions were going, to check. Now I wasn't a small group participant. My job was to facilitate the virtual experience, if you will. But I was in and out of small group rooms. I was checking in on them. And it's only in the main room when people join or people drop and rejoin that you see somebody's not in small group. So if you want the facilitator or the host, whoever's going to be moderating the virtual experience, to be in a small group, then absolutely you can keep those men in the main room without breaking them out separately. And we'll look at how to do that. Okay, the application version for Windows 7 for the Parity Assisted Video Player and Chromebook, that's something I'm gonna have to check with our IT people about and get back to you. Okay. One question real quick though, have you tried it and do you know it not to work on those devices?
I've not tried the Chromebook. I do have a Windows 7 computer. I have several Windows 7 computers along with a Windows 10. And when I try to load, actually it's Windows 7 32-bit. I should have been more specific. It's only good for like a 64-bit computer.
Okay, gotcha.
It's just that all my Windows 7 computers are 32-bit and the Windows 10 one's a 64-bit because we just got it.
And even if you have a Windows 10 32-bit, it won't work either.
Okay.
So it's a 32-bit. And I think it's just a matter of setting some flags for your compile. If I'm not, that's all I'm guessing.
I'll have to look at that. We just did another software update on that was launched and deployed last night. So if you haven't, you might try downloading today or tomorrow and just do a double check if that works. If not, let me know. But regardless, I'll check in with our IT folks on that and see what I can tell you. Okay, the rest of it, the hybrid program, how to do breakouts, actually, let's speak to the video and audio quality issues real quick. We cannot control, how do I say this? We can't control things on Zoom's end. Zoom is obviously a third-party provider, okay? And so anytime that you have video quality issues or audio quality issues, you want to look at the same culprits. You want to look at your internet speed. You want to look at the quality of your connection. You want to look at if you're in an area where different devices in the same home are fighting for bandwidth. So let's say you're in a home with a bunch of kids and everybody's doing virtual streaming of their favorite TV show. They're doing Netflix and chill or whatever these people call it today. Those could all be issues that impact video quality. I'm going to stop and see. I know you guys have a lot of experience with Zoom. Anybody else want to jump in with thoughts or experience there?
Okay, I'd like to just jump in again with our own home experience. And okay, we have some Wi-Fi dead spots in our house. So I went out and I bought a Wi-Fi extender, set it up in a central location in our house. And that's solved the Wi-Fi dead spots area for us. It was relatively inexpensive, I think about $30. So that's something you might want to look at, is to get a Wi-Fi extender, because if you've got audio and visual problems, you probably have some dead spots or some weak spots from your router if you're running on Wi-Fi.
That's great. Thank you, Joe. Any other experiences or thought to add to that one?
When we did it the other night, I was the host, and I'm on a wired connection, so I don't have to worry about Wi-Fi and a FiOS 1 gig circuit. So bandwidth, at least to the internet, was good. But the other people who were participating and watching the video just said that sometimes, particularly when Steve was moving across the screen, they would start to see it pixelate or break up. And there's a video settings button in Zoom, and I tried doing it at all different levels of quality. It changed the quality on my screen, but it didn't really change it on theirs. So I'm assuming Zoom must be doing something at their server end to detect what kind of video quality the endpoint is capable of, and then downgrading or something as part of that.
I believe that's true. I remember reading a Zoom update, and I don't remember how long ago it came out, but it talked about how they modified the signal essentially, right, to try to keep things moving. Now, this was also sometime in the last 2 months, so I don't know if there's any updates since then. And you bring up a good point. Just because the video quality might be good on the host's end, there could be a slew of reasons that aren't within the control of the host or Zoom, i.e. it's on the recipient's end, why the video quality may not be coming through good. It could be poor signal quality on the recipient's end. It could be bandwidth issues on the recipient's end, things of that nature. It could be computer settings. So I guess I would say in our experience, it's not automatically, oh, Zoom isn't working. And to the extent that your guys are comfortable with tech or not comfortable with tech, somebody on the core team might be fielding questions about that.
So one alternative we talked about was just getting everybody to download the video player, and then suggesting, if they were having problems seeing my video through Zoom, they could just fire up the video player and kind of watch it in parallel with the rest of us.
Well, they can watch through the app as well, right?
Right, and what I was going to say is the Paradisus Day video player is really intended for core team leaders, not for participants, okay? If participants want to access the videos, they can use the TMIY app, and that would be on their smartphone or tablet, assuming that I can type properly. And then the other thing that they can do is they can log into the class management software, which we also refer to internally as SQL. Okay, and real quickly, if you go to the paradisusday.org website, it's that login in the upper right-hand corner. They click on that, they put in their email and their password. They actually have access to the video sessions that way. So if they want to get in through the computer, they can do that. But the main reason I'm bringing this up is that we did not intend to make that video player available to everybody. So participants can get it through the app or through that class management software.
Brian, do you mind if I just share some of our experience on that? In the spring, when everyone was kind of suddenly doing virtual, we tried to just flip over and just have the guys watch on their own, and we definitely saw a drop off. So we are going to try to have everybody watch the videos again together. Again, that was one of those questions about how to keep everyone together. And obviously acknowledge everything everyone was asking the questions about with, streaming speeds, and if it's jerky or, the quality is going to be a big determinant if we can continue that way. But I do think there's a lot of merit in everybody watching together like we would if we were all in the same room. So we're going to try to go down that path if we can do it.
Yeah.
Vince, were you saying that by using the video player itself, the core team leader doing that in the parish, you were able to eliminate that choppiness?
Yeah, sorry. No, what I was alluding to was in the spring, rather than watch it together, we just allowed everyone to watch them on their own on their smartphones.
Yeah,
and then just tried to get together for the discussions. But it was, we went from about 100 guys every week down to about 70. And there's some of the guys we haven't heard back from. They just were frustrated or just it didn't keep us together as much as a group.
I get it. That's what happened with us.
Yeah,
Right.
Me too.
And that's definitely a concern. So why don't we do this? Why don't we jump over to the process, the virtual process? We can walk through that, and then, you know, talk about these issues as we walk through it. And what I need to do is make sure I've got my page up.
So while you're doing that, I've actually have some experience on the audio issue. If you don't mind me just sharing one quick tip on that.
That'd be great.
We were doing a lot of virtual game nights with my family around the country, and we used the Jackbox game program, but the sound wasn't coming through. When you go to share your screen, there's a command window that comes up at the top, and that's where you have the option to click on share your computer audio. So that's, if you're doing the video sharing on Zoom, it's really important you use the system audio. Otherwise, your microphone's trying to just pick up the ambient sound and it doesn't work as well. So that really makes a huge difference on the audio quality.
Okay.
The quality is significantly better.
Yeah.
Select which one, Vince?
So once you go to share,
Right.
so you've got the share screen on the bottom, there's a menu that opens up at the top. I think it's toward the right. And that you click on options and there's an actual toggle that says share computer audio.
Yeah. Mine
really
actually,
important.
Mine opens on the bottom of the
On the
screen
bottom,
for some
okay.
reason.
Yeah, that's where mine was as well.
Got it.
Yep, I've seen that. I've done that before. That's, yeah, we do that often. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Got it.
I think there's actually two buttons there you have to click, one for video and one for audio.
That's
Got it.
correct.
Yep.
Thank you much.
That's great.
Has anybody had any experience with running the TMI player, and what kind of experience have they had?
I just downloaded and experimented and it looked like it ran really well. And I've gone ahead and downloaded the first 3 weeks just so I've got them on my laptop. I'm gonna have to get another laptop because we're gonna have to run it from multiple rooms. But so far the performance worked really well and it was a very easy download.
Yeah, I've done the same, but what I'm asking is like having like, 60, 100 guys out there sharing that video. How did that go? Does anybody have any experience with that yet?
We tested it with smaller groups and we found it to be reliable. Now you're also talking about a professional setting with, known internet speeds and things of that nature, right?
Right.
We didn't do it with 100 people calling in from their home. We did what you would call a functionality test.
Okay, I'm going to jump in again. I happen to belong to an amateur radio club, and in this COVID-19 shutdown, we have been running some Zoom sessions with 40 and 50 people. Haven't run videos, but they've been running PowerPoints, sharing screens successfully.
And have those PowerPoints had any embedded audio in them?
No, we haven't, but it's been, PowerPoints with a speaker. And like I said, it's between 40 to 50 people when we do the session, and it does go over successfully. I would think that video would probably be about the same.
I would agree. And basically what you're doing is you're doing a screen share of the Parodies This Day video player, if that makes sense to everybody. So
that is correct. It's going to be whatever's on your screen, and it's going to be continuously updating. Bandwidth might do a little bit of, might try to do some compression, but I don't think it does a whole lot.
Great. So
The question I have is, I'm operating off of a company computer, so I'm not going to be able to download the video player. Am I going to need to switch to my desktop, which would basically landlock me to being at the desk?
No, I'm doing this same thing, and I just display the video right from this website that we're looking at, and then there's an option to pull it into full screen, so you see, it's a very big picture.
So there's two that I know of, two answers to that question. If you want to use the Parodies This Day video player and your work laptop will not allow the download, and we have experienced that because of the security protections built into the company's IT process, then you would have to use your desktop if you want to use the Parodies This Day video player. The other option would be to utilize our class management site, And so let me open a new window here.
Is the video player compatible with tablets?
I believe so.
Okay.
When I looked at it, I thought it was just Mac OS and Windows.
I'll double check that and get an answer. I can tell you I haven't tested it on a tablet.
Those are the two options I saw, was just Windows and Mac.
Got it.
Let me just log into the class management software. My interface, by the way, is going to look a little bit different because I'm an admin in this software, but hopefully you recognize this is the software that you log into when you want to manage your class, your roster, or send the emails, that kind of thing.
Not just an admin, a super admin.
Yeah, it comes with a cape. It's very exciting. Well, here, let me do it this way.
This is when you download the player itself.
No, this is accessing the videos through the web. And let me log in as a core team member.
But I thought you weren't recommending doing that. So
I wasn't, but this is the second option, you know, in answer to the question about what to do if the work computer won't allow you. So you can, the point is you can access the videos through the class management software.
Yes.
If you log in as a team leader, you come down to this videos button in the left-hand menu.
Yep.
Click that. Right now, my class, Butte, Iowa, is on all things new. And then you'll see, you can click the link to watch the video. And again, doing a screen share, you can play the video.
When I did that this spring, it was a very choppy presentation.
yes, we did that.
You did that and it was choppy. Okay.
Yes.
I know in the spring, Zoom had a number of bandwidth issues. They also had human resource issues in terms of not having enough headcount to keep up with the demand and some of the, overtaxing of the system. I've been reading in tech bulletins that that's gotten much better, but I would also say it's not perfect.
Well, the other factor is you're now running your internet through the website, so that's taking bandwidth, and you're on Zoom, so you're kind of double taxing the system, whereas if you have a player, it's local and it's running more efficiently.
And if you've downloaded the videos on the player, they're
right.
playing off your hard drive.
Yep.
So my recommendation would be to do it off your desktop, or maybe you get another guy in the group to take responsibility for
Yeah,
it.
that's where I'm thinking. I'll just ask someone to maybe do the player. Got it.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so if you haven't seen it yet, we have a web resource page that really outlines this process of how to do a virtual TMIY meeting. And, it's this page here. If you need the link, tell you what,
You sent it to us.
I did, but I'll put it in the chat. It looks like I need to stop my screen share to do that. Yep. And as I've been sharing my screen, I have not been keeping up with the chat. I apologize. If somebody needs to call my attention to something there, please do so. Let me get back to my screen share. So this page for how to do virtual TMIY walks us through the entire process. The other thing that I just want to show you, let me see. Coming back over here is when it comes to doing TMIY virtually, so TMIY is the same program, okay? The DVDs, the Paradisus Day video player replaces DVDs.
DVDs, yeah.
Okay. Zoom replaces in-person meetings. So we're still talking about doing the exact same TMIY program and process. I should probably say process there. Instead of using DVDs, we're using the Paradisus Day video player. And to a large extent, instead of in-person meetings, we're doing Zoom, or in some cases, it might be a bit of both, a hybrid, okay? I only know of a handful of parishes across the country that are doing all in person. So with that context in mind, I'm going to go back to the Virtual TMIY page. And this walks through that process for how to do TMIY using Zoom with a large group, small group format, and using the Paradis Day video player instead of DVDs. All right. And so each one of these boxes is a clickable section that expands. I'm not going to read this for you. I just want you to know that this is there. So it gives you everything that you need. But you'll notice that we're saying you still start the meeting in the large group. Everybody joins the same Zoom meeting link. They're all in large group. That gives you the time to do some casual conversation. The designated people can offer a welcome, prayer. You can have your MC do the introductory comments. Then, while you're still in the large group Zoom, you play the weekly video. That's done using a screen share of the Paradis Day video player. Okay. After the video plays, the host stops the screen share, and then you might have some comments before you dismiss into small group. And then you do what's called breakout sessions in Zoom, and you trigger the small groups using the breakout session feature. That can run, you know, again, whatever your normal time frame is, 30 to 45 minutes. Once that's done, the host can end the small group session, or the host can set a timer as well, either way. But once the small group session ends, it brings everybody back to the large group session where you can have your closing remarks. At any point, if the host presses end meeting, which is the red button, instead of, let's say, mute or breakout or whatever, then the whole meeting shuts down. So the one caution is don't press end meeting unless you want to end the meeting for everybody, okay? But this whole process that I just walked through is described in detail in the rest of this page, phase 1, phase 2. And it's a way to do TMIY the same way we've always done it, just with a change in setting from in-person to virtual. Now, what I'd like to do is talk for a minute about hybrid. Because hybrid, the way we're defining it, is where you have people in person, but you also have people virtually. So let's say you've got a group of guys that feel comfortable coming to the church. The church allows you to have some people in the meeting space, and you're responsible and you do your social distancing and you have your precautions in place. But what you're adding to that is an active Zoom meeting. So while you're in person, while somebody has, let's say, their laptop that's going to be playing the video, you also want to have a device, or maybe multiple devices, we'll talk about that in a minute, that are connected to the Zoom meeting. Okay. The device that is going to play the video on the Paradis Day video player should be the meeting host. So whoever owns the Zoom account, that's the person that's going to play the video. That also means that if the host, let's just say the host is a core team leader, and they're doing the hybrid program, that means the core team leader's computer has to be at the meeting.
Right.
Or whoever is running the Zoom meeting, you know, and playing the video should be there. I heard somebody trying to break in. Was there a question or comment there?
I think the other thing is, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think as the host, you can also designate somebody else as the host. Like if you had to miss, I think you can delegate a co-host so that other people could use their equipment for it.
That's true. And technically, I suppose, as I'm thinking this through, it doesn't have to be the host that has the video player on their machine, because somebody else could do a screen share.
That's true, yeah.
Okay. Now that gets into Zoom settings, and you have to make sure in your Zoom meeting settings that you allow other people to do a screen share. There's a portion called in meeting, and we can look at that here in just a minute. And you check the box, allow participants to screen share is what has to be checked there. So it doesn't technically have to be the host, but the things you have to remember is someone's got to drive the Zoom meeting and someone has to share the video on the video player. Okay. So that's for the first part of the meeting. The other thing to keep in mind if you're doing the hybrid approach, let's say you've got the laptop set up by the projector in the physical space, and that laptop is going to drive the video on the projector. If that same laptop is going to be used to capture, let's say, the MC comments or the welcome or the prayer, then that laptop camera has to be in proximity, or the speakers have to be in proximity. The other way you get around that is by having somebody join the Zoom meeting on a different device. So they join with the link and they just do it off a different device. So you could have somebody holding their phone, you know, doing the MC comments, doing the prayer, and they're presenting because they're dialed into the Zoom meeting. So the technology to do both in-person and virtual at the same time needs to be given a little thought, okay? The other aspect of that, that's at the beginning of the meeting, right? That's the welcome and the video. When you get to small group, the recommendation for a hybrid is that you have the in-person folks meet in small group and you have the virtual folks meet in small group, but you don't mix them. And the reason for that is, let's say you have a small group that's been meeting for a lot of years, but 4 guys are now virtual. You would have to have 4 devices at that table where some of the guys are in person and some of the guys are on devices. And I think that would make the conversation very tricky. And so an adjustment to still be able to do TMIY would be the people who are in person, they form small groups in person. That might mean that they've got new people in their groups that maybe they didn't have last year. And then the people who are on virtual, they do the breakout session small group. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, and I guess the only thing you'd need to do in that case is make sure that at least someone that has been used to being a facilitator is facilitating those virtual sessions. You wouldn't want people that aren't used to leading a discussion all in the same room with no one to help shepherd that
Right.
conversation forward.
I totally agree. Yep.
Yep.
And that's where, you know, if you think about roles on the core team, you know, maybe with COVID, you don't have a breakfast group anymore, you know, because you want to make sure
Right.
you're serving in a safe manner.
Right.
So maybe you're purchasing stuff that's prepackaged or whatever the case is, but you do want somebody who's going to be the host of the virtual experience, a dedicated host for that. And again, you could have somebody who's really good at all this stuff and they might be able to juggle it, but it's a lot to juggle. And so that's why we're recommending if you have somebody dedicated. And then, like we said before, spend a little time with your small group leaders ahead of time to let them know, okay, there's some nuances to doing it virtually.
So technically you probably could do it with one device. You just wouldn't have the visuals. You could potentially run it off the laptop microphone, but you would only be seeing the person in front of the laptop and hearing the other people in the room. So it definitely is going to be a degraded experience.
Correct.
But I know we had a group that specifically asked if they could get one of the small sub rooms where we meet so that they could have part of the group there in person and part at home. And I think I'm going to counsel them on not trying to do that.
Right. Now, I do know that some of the classes kind of came up with their own definition of hybrid. And so my definition of hybrid is you're trying to do in-person and virtual at the same time. Another definition I heard of hybrid is where a core team is going to offer in-person, and that's going to be its own, it would be the TMIY bubble, its own bubble, right? And then they'll do virtual at a different time. Okay, they're not going to try to pull them off together. There are obviously simplicities to that approach. The complexity, of course, is you're doing it twice. So how do I say this? With any of this stuff, you know, you don't have to use Zoom. Let's say you've got a GoToMeeting account, you know GoToMeeting, you're comfortable with that. Let's say you prefer Google Meet. Let's say your business has a WebEx account. WebEx, I've heard, does a great job with breakout rooms. They tend to be quite a bit more expensive from what I've heard as well. But again, you don't have to do Zoom. We had to pick a platform that was as universal as possible, and that's why we picked Zoom. And so again, just like you don't have to use Zoom, you don't have to do hybrid one way. You know, you guys can do it the way that works best for your class. I just wanted to dive into some of the things that you have to keep in mind if you're going to try to do the in-person and the online at the same time, or the in-person and the virtual at the same time.
But if we did a go-to meeting, like let's say the company accepts go-to meetings. So I could use the company laptop for the go-to meeting, but then all of the participants in our group would have to have a go-to meeting account as well.
I don't think that's true, Steve. I think that they would have to receive the invitation that's generated from GoToMeeting. And then there's like a little app that gets downloaded on their machine. So when they click the invitation, it would say, do you want GoToMeeting to run on the machine? They'd have to click yes. And then, you know, it kind of installs in the background, and that's what gives them access to the GoToMeeting. They don't have to have an account.
Okay.
They don't have to go and register and give them a credit card number and all that kind of jazz.
So they would have to set up their account name, very similar to like you do with Zoom, as a participant.
By clicking the link, yes. Not
Yeah.
by going to the website ahead of time and, you know, doing the formal registration process.
Yes, because in GoTo, I don't think if GoToMeeting has breakouts.
So there are limitations to other platforms. I'm honestly having trouble keeping in mind which ones have breakouts and don't. I think you're right about GoToMeeting.
Yeah, I've not seen it in GoTo, so I'm back to doing it with my own computer. Got it.
Right. Good. Okay. So any questions on the process? And then what I'll do is jump into Zoom.
Yeah,
Can I make a recommendation?
Uh,
This comes from our core team. We met last week, and
Okay.
we went over that program syllabus that you had. And one of the things that we like about our small groups is that our small groups have been able to, and we meet every Saturday. We meet. Our Iron Sharpens Iron group does. So we've been doing Zoom throughout the entire, well, every weekend. And we just have different programs that we have. So we're just
Sure.
now getting back to the TMIY. But in doing so, our small groups sometimes will run 45 minutes because there's an individual who is sharing an experience that they just
critical.
feel they need to share it. And it's so important in that small group that we let them vent, that we let that conversation just go free flow, let the Holy Spirit drive, work the group. And so I'm recommending to our core members, our core group, that our table leaders close the meeting out. So instead of having the 30-minute clock, we're going to set the open meeting, the small groups, to an hour or an hour and a half, whatever Zoom's going to let me do. And so that way, the time clock is going to just continue, and at the end of the time, it's going to close out the main meeting, which is going to close out all the small groups. But they can go and as long as they want to, they can have their own prayer, closing prayer, which is what we encourage them to do. And so I get wanting to get the group back together, but I found so much benefit in just letting that small group just really nurture, just really have it grow to a core.
So do you have to just have the host watch for what is happening in those smaller rooms? How do you facilitate
Sure.
that so it doesn't artificially end before you're ready?
I just set the time for an hour and a half.
Yeah. So as long as the meeting time is set long enough, it allows a window for small groups to meet, you know, let's say up to 90 minutes, right? Then you're not going to come up against a hard stop. That also requires, like our recommended process requires, the paid Zoom account where you can go longer. And
Yeah, I guess I'm speaking of, you know, you mentioned the end meeting button. So if you're the host, you've got that end meeting button. So I'm assuming then you would just leave the meeting, but let it keep running.
Yes.
Right.
And then
come
got it.
back.
So you have to just leave it open while others are still meeting. You can't end it.
Absolutely. And then after that, hour and a half of a small group session, whatever we set. We'll start it out with probably an hour. And if some people want to go longer than that, then I'll move that time. But at the end of the hour, then I'll come back and I'll just end the entire Zoom.
Got it.
And Steve, I love the recommendation for this reason. A lot of times when we're meeting in person at parishes, we have space availability limitations. There's other groups that need to come in and use that meeting space. That is actually one of the benefits of virtual, is as long as guys want to sit around and chat, you can actually afford them that opportunity. So great suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we usually have guys that'll stay there when we're face to face, but I have to remind them, like, they have to tell their wives I wasn't the one that kept them there.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions on the process, just in terms of concept, and we'll just jump into Zoom functionality here real quick.
Yeah, I just haven't gotten my head around after the main meeting and you go to these breakout rooms, how you manage the people who are going to the different breakout small group rooms.
Okay, I don't know how well I'm going to be able to demonstrate that with you on while I'm managing it. I don't think Zoom's going to let me do that. So here in this web resource page that we have under phase 2, sorry, I clicked the wrong one. We actually have steps and links to Zoom videos that show that. Okay, so presenting the weekly video, we talked about how do you do that. There's a whole tutorial from Zoom that's embedded in that web page from us. And similarly, breaking into small groups. Oh, here we go.
There's your 2 buttons.
There's the 2 buttons that we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
For computer sound and for video clip. I apologize. I didn't realize we had captured that picture on the web page. But
well, and I guess that actually wasn't the button I was talking about. So it's much better to do it there while you're sharing. But if you miss it there and you realize the sound's not going, then it's at the top of the screen.
You've got another option.
Yeah, there's another option you can catch up.
But here's the one I wanted to call you out to, is the break into small groups via Zoom breakout rooms. They offer a tutorial that shows you step by step how to do that. Okay. And when I'm in Zoom, I'll try to describe it and I'll try to share my screen so you can see it. I'm just not sure if Zoom is going to allow me to show you Zoom's functionality.
I guess what I'm asking, is it automatic, or can, like somebody had asked that they would like to have the same small group week after week.
Gotcha. So that's what I was going to show you. There's 2 ways to do small groups in Zoom. One way is like today we have, I'm going to do a stop share real quick. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you see where it says participants.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, well, now 28 people.
Mm-hmm.
If I click my breakout room button as the host,
Where's your breakout button?
I think the host just sees that in Zoom.
Right.
The participants don't. So if I click that button, what shows up on my screen is a window, and it gives me the option to say assign 27 participants, because I would be participant 28, into, and then it allows you to say how many rooms. So if I want to do 5 rooms, that means most groups will have 6 people, some groups will have 5 people, right?
It just automatically assigns some people.
Randomly. Or you can do it manually. So there's a button that says automatically or manually. Automatically means randomly. That means out of the 30 people we have on the call, they just get assigned randomly, okay? But if you want to make sure the same group meets every time, there's 2 options for that. I wonder if I can do a quick, I don't know if this is going to work. Bear with me for 1 second, guys. I'm going to see if I can do a screen capture and pop it in the chat.
Yeah, I did watch that video, and I was just wondering if I can automatically have it done week to week, like the 6 same guys.
Yeah, and
each
so
week.
so you can do an upload of a CSV file.
Okay.
So let's say you've got all your registrants and you've got them broken out in their small groups. Zoom allows you to do a CSV file upload, and you do that at the time that you schedule your meeting. Here's the problem with that. Full disclosure. We have found the reliability of that to be 40%.
Okay.
And what I mean is we've never, in all the testing we've done, we've never had it to where we've uploaded the CSV file, we've told breakout rooms to go, and everybody from the CSV file was perfectly in the breakout rooms. Now there's some reasons for that. Let's say I have, I'm going to pick on Jim Unson from Dubuque. Let's say I have Jim Unson's address, at, theadmiral@gmail.com. But Jim, when he logs in, is signed into his Google account at thecommander@gmail.com. So Zoom is going to have the wrong email address for Jim. It's not going to recognize him. And so just Jim's not going to get to a small group room. He's going to be in the part that you have to manually assign. Okay. The question is, if you want to use the CSV file and you're willing to let it cut down your manual assignment by 40%, then do that. Okay. That's actually what I did on that Missionaries to the Family Retreat. We had 52 couples in 2 classes that were meeting in alternating small groups about every 30 to 45 minutes. And so I was doing a lot of manual assigning, but because I uploaded the CSV file, I didn't have to manually assign all of them. There were some that did get in there right.
And so they tell you which ones were not assigned?
They do. Yep. It shows up in that little window. You'll see, like in the case I gave, the example I gave for here, if I did 6 breakout rooms randomly, if we uploaded the CSV file and we're going to have 6 breakout rooms, you would see room 1, room 2, room 3, room 4, room 5, room 6, and it would show you who was placed into it, and whoever wasn't would be at the top of the screen with a little arrow that says assign to, and you just click on that and it allows you to choose what room to pop them in. So let's say Vince wasn't assigned. I go Vince Phelan, room 3, boom, he goes. Steve Helmrich, room 4, boom, he goes. Charlie Blancato. And so you're just doing it one by one. It's a click, a drop, and select. A click, a drop, and select. So guys can get used to that.
But once I do that, will the next time it remember that?
No.
No.
So I have to go back and make sure that they get uploaded correctly.
Do you have to do them one by one, or can you do them with groups? Can you multi-select?
I've never tried multi-selecting, but I believe it's one by one.
Because I was thinking about this before this call, thinking like one of the things we could do is have the guys put their table number with their name, so that on screen I would see Vince Phelan table 2, and then I could at least, it would be quicker because you can see the numbers.
Right. Every time they come in, every week, they'd have to change their name to table 1 or 2.
Yeah, I don't know how well it'll work. That was just one of the ideas I had.
Yeah, so we've actually not found a software that's affordable for volunteers.
Yeah.
So like WebEx, for example, I've heard that's pretty slick, but it tends to be quite a bit more expensive. That works perfectly. So our recommendation is, if you want it to be based on ease of use, and this would be a concession that guys would be making for the opportunity to meet, so to speak, is to do it randomly.
Right.
Because if you do it randomly, it happens like that.
The Holy Spirit will take effect.
Yeah, there you go.
I hate to say it, and I know because I've been in a group with the same guys for, what, Jim, 4 or 5 years, something like that. And we really enjoy each other. But the flip side is, we heard from groups that did this in the spring, and some did try doing not just a small group, they tried doing this thing, and guys loved it. They loved getting together with guys that they didn't normally meet with.
Can you do both?
So I'm thinking that through. If you do the automatic assignment, which is to say random, it takes everybody who's in the meeting and it divides them randomly. So the answer to that would be no.
No, so the ones who don't get assigned, you just throw them into an automatic.
Okay, so in that case, you'd be talking about the CSV file upload.
Yeah.
And the ones who don't get assigned, yeah, you could, if there's not many of them, they could just be their own group, or, you assign them to 2 new rooms automatically.
And you can change that at any week you want to, or they want you to.
Yeah.
You can, and you can actually change it midstream. In that retreat I was telling you we let couples know, if you're in a meeting that's not working out for you, just exit the small group, because they have that control to exit the breakout on their own. They come back into the main virtual space and they say, hey, Brian, hey, Steve, whoever, this isn't working out. In one case, I put somebody in the wrong meeting, they came back out. They're like, oh, we're happy to meet with the people from Columbus, but we're from Victoria. Oh, okay. Well, let me get you in with the Victoria group. So you can even change it mid-stride.
So we tried a test with 10 men and 2 breakout teams, and I did upload it via CSV.
Yep.
And when I went in the meeting to start the breakout rooms, it brought the screen up. The men were in the right rooms, but I still had to click on each one of them before I could actually start the breakout meetings.
Well, that's interesting. That's actually a twist I've not heard yet, which, by the way, doesn't surprise me, right? It's technology, but that's what we
I
haven't
figured
heard.
I break everything.
Well, and I apologize. I'm seeing your email address. What's your first name?
Carl.
Carl. Okay. I was going to guess Kevin, so I'm glad I didn't.
That's
Carl.
my run.
So Carl brings up a good point, and that is if you haven't done it yet, we highly recommend that whatever approach you decide, you do a dry run of before you do it with the participants. Just to get, for no other reason, just to get yourselves comfortable with the functionality.
All right, if I can jump in about that one comment about the breakout rooms, I think you have to click open breakout rooms in the lower right of a breakout rooms subscreen in order to get people to go to their breakout rooms after they're assigned.
Yeah, it's called Create Breakout Rooms. It's a blue button.
Create or open, one of the two, yeah.
Well, I'm looking at it right now. The one on my screen says Create.
Okay, and then when you assign somebody, you then have to click open breakout rooms.
Correct. So if you want, I can show you an example of that functionality for the people who are on this meeting right now, if you'd like to see that.
Sure.
You would just have to give me a few minutes because what I'll do is I'll assign you and then I'll actually jump into each room and jump back out, and you can see how that works if you'd like. Yes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Please.
All right. So 26 participants, we're going to put into 3 rooms. I'm going to do it manually. And right now I'm clicking on Create Breakout Rooms. So what I see on my screen, because I said I'm going to do it manually, is that I see breakout room 1, 2, 3, and 4 with nobody in them. There's a button to assign. So I'm going to assign to breakout room 1, Ann Bass, Charlie, Dale, Dennis, Eric, Father Tim. And then I'm going to assign to breakout room 2, George, Holy Family, Jim Unson, Joe from St. Bernadette, Justin, Ken, and Kevin. Breakout room 3, we're going to assign Joe Henchy, Carl, Lawrence, Mark, Mike, Roman, Tom, Vince. And then breakout room 4 is going to be everybody else. So while you guys have been sitting here watching me, I actually just did the manual assignment for 26 people. And I still have to click. Now, Joe, it gives me open all rooms. Create breakout rooms was for the random or the automatic. Now it's telling me open all rooms. So we're going to do that. You should see an invitation to join. Go ahead and click on that. Everybody should be joined.
Tina's that I got to see. Oh, he's going to be pretty.
Cool.
All right, so we have some people. Yep, everybody's in room 1. I'm going to jump and check the others, and once I do, I'm going to pull us back in, okay?
I don't see anybody.
It might be your selection in the upper right-hand corner, your view selection. Go ahead and click Gallery View, and that might show you everybody.
Saying they couldn't find a button, maybe that's the reason.
Well, the thing is, I found when you're hosting it, you kind of have to have a, be able to like herd cats to be able to be a successful host, right, Brian?
That's it. I just wanted to check in on you guys real quick. I'm going to check in on the other 2, and then we'll regather.
Zoom, by the way, was having a special sale, I think it was this week even, if you bought a 12-month subscription.
We've given the breakout rooms 120 seconds, 2 minutes to close out. Now we're getting some people rejoining us from the breakout rooms.
And that's kind of what goes on every Wednesday morning after the rosary, huh?
Correct. We just randomly assign, we tell the breakout room to take whoever's in the Zoom meeting at that moment and just randomly automatically put them in. And that's how that goes. And so you get paired up with guys, you know, randomly, whoever's on the call.
Very cool.
Joe saved us. Otherwise, we were all watching the countdown. He's like, hey, we can push the button and get out right now. Like, oh, great.
I apologize. I didn't realize I had the countdown set to 2 minutes. I was like, oh, shoot. Because once I triggered it.
But it was good to see that feature because, again, somebody talked about earlier about, you know, one of the things I was thinking, you could bring everybody together for a final prayer and then send them back to finish their discussions to the small groups and do it that way, too. It'd be another alternative.
Right. I also noticed that we had people in small groups who were showing their video that weren't doing it in large group.
Oh.
So they got a little more bold in small group.
Nice.
Which I love.
Yes.
I'm gonna call out Ann Bass for that one. Oh, Ann, hi, how are you? Ann Bass is one of our wonderful program coordinators at Paradisa Stay who helps to keep classes going. And Ann, so glad you could join us tonight. Thanks for being with us.
Yes, I was sitting silently in the background.
That's it. Okay, let's see. So we're all back.
Brian, sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned that you can change the length of the breakout session while it's on the fly, while it's in a breakout session?
Actually, I don't.
Or
think
is
you
that
can.
only at the beginning when you create it?
You set it when you do the Zoom, the meeting creation. Yep.
Okay. Thank
and
you.
I was hoping that I could show you my screen and that you'd be seeing what I'm seeing as host. Zoom is not allowing me to do that. If you'd like, I can go into the Zoom account on the website and show you what it looks like to do that when you actually go to set up your meeting. I want to see if people desire that or not, because I know we're already minutes over our intended meeting length.
Just a quick question. Are you using a professional account or are you doing this all on the free account?
Kevin, great question. We are recommending that classes use the first level of professional account for the simple fact that the free account only allows you to go 40 minutes. And so you're going to have a hard time getting a whole class session in that 40 minutes. The other thing you could do with the free account is you could do, 40 minutes for the first part, the welcome and the video, and then make guys jump onto another link for small group. That seems cumbersome. We did not
guys
find.
doing that.
Sorry, Joe. Joe, you're on mute.
Oops. You're going to lose guys doing that, guaranteed.
I think so. And we also didn't find a paid option to do breakout rooms that was as inexpensive as Zoom, which is one of the reasons why we went with Zoom. And so it's about $15 a month to get that pro account.
I'm not too sure why that was, but you were very choppy there.
I think it was because we had people muting and unmuting. At least that's what it appeared on my screen. So sorry about that.
How much is that per month?
$15. And certainly we're not asking core team leaders, to shoulder that individually. Maybe core teams want to do a shared expense. Maybe they want to ask guys for a couple bucks to offset it. But so far, we've not encountered any group that hasn't been willing in some way to chip in and get that covered.
And I suspect I speak for everyone that's on this call. We have found we drive less miles today than what we did back some time ago. And so I just adjusted that monies into a better account, which was the Zoom account for this.
Great way of looking at it, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, with caution, let me offer this. We do have one account that we use for Zoom, and our That Man Is You meetings are only on a Friday morning before 7 a.m. That leaves the rest of the time open for other ministries. With some cooperation, you might be able to set up other meetings for other times, especially if you have some. So 3 or 4 minute ministries can share that time.
And George, that's a great point. You're bringing that up made me think of a TMIY person who reached out to me. I talked to him, and this is the one you and I emailed about from Arizona. And his parish was doing exactly that. The parish had secured a couple of Zoom accounts that were being shared across the ministries. So maybe just to check in to see if your parish already has something existing as well.
So it can be shared. So if one of us purchases a Zoom account, I can share it with another core team member. It's just as long as we share the same link. Because what happens sometimes, some core team members can't make it every Saturday. And if the owner of that account is not coming, then we're out of the water. So, but we can share that link.
So that's my understanding, Charlie. Here at Paradise Day, we have a cat named Mark Hartfield. Some of you might have heard of him. He purchased the Zoom account on behalf of the ministry, and then we have login access, to it. Anybody with login can access that Zoom account.
Okay.
And that's how we do it. So, for example, I'm on, my name says Paradise Day because that's the name on the Zoom account.
Okay.
One of the things you might want to consider is that 2 people logging on to the same account at the same time may not work very well. So you may want to coordinate when you sign in and how often you do that. But you should be able to make your That Man Is You account set up for all 13 weeks.
Yeah.
In one setup.
Yep.
Right. What I was getting at is that we have 8 core team members, and we all, if we all have that link, and each guy can be the host, for a given week. If one of the guys, who purchased, like let's say if I purchased the account and I can't make it one week, well, here's the link, but one of the other core team members can run it on their computer. And I'm saying that can be done.
That's correct.
Okay.
No, that's correct. And to George's point, you cannot have 2 different computers logged into the same Zoom account at the same time.
Right. Right.
Because we've tried that. And I can also tell you from personal experience that you can't have the same computer on 2 different Zoom accounts. So I'm not even saying the same account, 2 different accounts at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Even using a private browser window, Zoom will not
Okay.
allow you to do that from the same computer.
So fair to say that if you're going to be gone for a weekend for a presentation and you're the coordinator, so then you give the rights to someone else, and you give them your access to your Zoom account. Then for sure, when you are gone, don't use your mobile device and try to sign in.
I want to check that, and the reason why is that we share Zoom accounts as I mentioned here at Paradise Day, and I have logged in as a participant to meetings that I have created in Zoom that somebody else was running as the host.
Oh, beautiful!
With no difficulty.
Okay.
And you use the same email account.
No, I didn't. So I didn't log in to the Zoom account on the internet. I didn't go to zoom.us and then hit my email and my password, what I did is I logged into the meeting invite, the hyperlink for the meeting invite, and I was brought in as a participant.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So for example, if I were to invite all of you to my TMIY session, which is really Jim Unson's TMIY session, you would get a hyperlink saying, come to, you know, the UCM Parish TMIY this Saturday. And anybody who clicks on that link would be brought in as a participant, okay? What Steve was talking about is if you go to Zoom online, zoom.us, enter your email, enter your password, and you log in as the account owner, that is correct. You can't have two people doing that at the same time. But let's say Steve set up the meeting for, I don't know, October 8th. I'm going to pick a random date. I have no idea if that's a meeting day. Okay, he sets it up on his Zoom account, but he's gone. Somebody else logs into the Zoom account as the owner using Steve's credentials. Then Steve clicks the link that came through email to join as a participant.
Okay.
I believe that to work.
Yeah.
Cool. Which means you do not need to have a Zoom account. You do not have to have a Zoom account in order to come to our meeting.
That is correct.
Yep.
All you have to do is push the link.
That's it.
That's correct.
Bingo. That is the easiest thing for me to communicate to the invitees. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't answer that more clearly.
No.
before.
In the past, we've told everybody to go get yourself a Zoom account. And so I'm getting rid of the go get your Zoom account. Man, if you're up in the morning and you got your coffee in hand, just go to your computer, pick up that email, click on that, and join us.
That's it.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Thank you. That is worth gold to me today.
Yes, sir. Okay, I know we're getting long on our time.
Just out of curiosity, are you guys recommending that we use passwords as well for the Zoom account? Sorry, to get into that particular meeting. I know Zoom had issues.
Yeah, there were people that weren't invited that were hacking into meetings. So our IT people automatically set up the settings so that it auto generates. My understanding is the password is embedded in the link.
Oh,
so
good. Okay.
That way they don't have to worry about fumbling around with email. As long as they use that link, the password will be embedded, and they do recommend you add a password.
Okay. Is that we've been doing that this summer, but we didn't know if that's something would somehow screw things up for the fall. Okay. No, that's perfect.
That just happens automatically when we set up the meeting as the administrator. Set up the password, then that link has an algorithm in it to create it.
Yeah, I think the one that we have, you have a choice of either auto-generating a password or adding your own. So we just automatically do it, and it randomly adds a password, but then it's built into the link that's sent out.
So if you guys haven't set up a Zoom account, which is where you go in, you create an owner account with Zoom through the website, what you'll find when you create your account is you have to do all of your meeting settings and all of your preferences. Whether or not a password is required to join the meeting is a setting that you need to either select or not select when you're setting up your Zoom account, okay? The folks who are saying it's automatically generated obviously have that setting marked to automatically generated. When we did the retreat, I actually removed that because we were moving so fast back and forth between Zoom meetings that I didn't want the couples trying to figure out, okay, now what's the password for this one? What's the password for that one? Because that would have set our schedule back. But for a weekly meeting like TMIY, absolutely. I recommend password, and that really helps the security for people hacking in. Now,
but still go to the email invite that you put in your calendar.
For the participant, that's all they need to do. Click on the email.
I'd like to just toss out something about the hackers too. There is a way for the host to banish somebody from a meeting. I think it's either under, I'm not the host, so I can't look and see, but it's either under participants or underneath the, in the lower bottom of the screen, there's a security icon for the host. So if somebody comes to get in and starts, being a nuisance, like you're bringing up, you can banish them and they will be banished for as long as the meeting is running.
That's correct. It's also, if you're looking at their image, it's in the upper right-hand corner. You'll see 3 dots. If you're the host and you click on that, there's an option to remove them. There's also an option to mute somebody. So Steve, I'm going to pick on you. I just muted Steve.
Yep.
I just unmuted Steve.
Yep, I can
So,
see that.
Yeah, so the host has some control, as Joe was just talking about. And those tutorials, remember that web resource page we showed you? Those tutorials are worth their weight in gold. And we didn't go through and do like screen capture tutorials because Zoom does a great job with it, right? So go through and take a look at those, and that will really help you understand the functionality in Zoom. I'm gonna, I know we're already a half hour over. I'm gonna stop and see if there's any other demos that you wanna do or any other specific questions that haven't been answered yet. I'm also gonna take a look at my list. I'm happy to stay on as long as it takes to get you guys what you need, but I don't want anybody feeling obligated that they have to stay either.
Close in prayer.
Let's see here. Oh, Zoom technical question. Can't get a meeting invite to be a hyperlink. Is the person who asked that question on the call still?
Still here.
Okay. So let's take a look at that real quick. I'm going to do a screen share. Mike, was that your question?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right, I'm doing a screen share of my Zoom account.
Okay.
You should be able to see TMIY and Parodies to Stay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go to the link that says meetings. I'm going to go to, we'll go to tomorrow's session using the TMIY toolkit. And here's the link for the meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can either, highlight it, do a copy, you can do a right click, a double click, or over here, you've got this copy button. And if you press that, it pulls up the entire invite. And you've got this button that says copy meeting invitation. So I'm going to do that. I'm on a Mac, so it's copied to my clipboard. Okay. Then if I want to open an email, then I'm going to need to switch my screen share. So bear with me for a second. So now you should be seeing my email window. And I'm going to send this to Mark Hartfield. It'll be Zoom invite. And if I just paste it, the entire invite comes up. Here's the hyperlink. Most email programs, when the email is sent, turn that into a clickable link. I'm currently using Apple Mail, which probably not a lot of people use. But if you hit the return button after it, it automatically turns it into a hyperlink. Okay. If you're putting it in a document, let me find my, now we're looking at that list of questions. I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to insert a new page break so we can see this. Okay. So now we're going to paste that invite. Again, you hit return, it, at least on my computer, it automatically turns it into a hyperlink. And it works the same way with the class email functionality, Mike, that if you put a hyperlink in there and you click send, when people receive it, it automatically turns it into a hyperlink.
So you can change right now in this doc that you're in, you could change, instead of join Zoom meeting, to join our meeting, you could type that in there, click here.
Wow. I'm normally a good typer, except when I have an audience.
Yeah.
Click here. So yeah, Steve, you can, as long as you paste that text, and honestly, if I were dealing with Mark Hartfield, I would also probably simplify it and say, well, I know Mark to be in Houston, so I'm only going to give him the Houston phone number. I'm not going to give them a list of a bunch of places, right?
Yeah.
This one tap mobile is actually also a hyperlink. If you're opening the invite on a smartphone, you tap that number and it automatically dials it. That turns into a clickable link on your smartphone. The one thing I'll tell you in general about Zoom meetings or any virtual meeting is you want to make it as simple as possible for people. So a lot of times I will only send the link and not the phone number, because as they're trying to join and Zoom starts running, it will give them the option to join by phone. Now, I'm not saying that's going to work for you. A lot of my contexts are business contexts, but I would certainly not send people this entire thing. I would try to greatly simplify it, you know, based on location.
So
Yeah,
Brian, I thought that when you set up the Zoom meeting, that the meeting invite would be a hyperlink. You didn't have to change it into a hyperlink. Like on my page, it doesn't show up as a hyperlink. It's just not clickable. So I've got to change that into a hyperlink.
Are you talking about in the Zoom? Let's see here.
Hey, gotta go.
All right, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are
The
you
invite
talking
link,
about Mike?
yeah, my invite link doesn't show up as a hyperlink.
So when you're setting up the meeting,
Yeah.
I don't think it shows up as a hyperlink. It's when you save the meeting and you go back into, so you saved a meeting, now you go to your list, then you go back, you click back into it, and that's where you find the hyperlink.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me like that, and I don't know why. So
I don't either.
What happens, Mike, if you save it to your calendar?
I haven't tried that.
Mike, what you're describing, I've not experienced, but I'll see if I can find an answer for you on that. Okay.
Yeah, I went and did a little searching with Zoom clients who might be experiencing that, and a few of them did. There seemed to be no solution. And I thought maybe I would, if I got a paid Zoom account, maybe it would show up as a hyperlink. Mine's just free right now.
Mike, what is your home parish?
I'm at Sacred Heart of Mary in Madoc, Ontario.
Ontario. Okay, that's all I need. I just need to be able to find you so I can email you the answer. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that it's not working for you that way. It could be a system related thing.
So are you suggesting we do no wait room?
Well, for those of you who joined before I did tonight, that's what you experienced. You were able to join the meeting and start interacting ahead of time. And so it depends. There are contexts where I really like the wait room, to be honest. And there are contexts where I think it's nice to have guys get together and be able to start chit-chatting, kibitzing, that kind of thing.
But you can, there's a setting you can have where you can join without the host. That's usually what I click on, without the waiting room.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I blanked that. That's what I did tonight, Steve.
Yep.
There was no wait room tonight. It was join without host.
Where we use the wait room is when we were running a webinar and we have a guest speaker, and so they're off camera, and then you bring them in when it's time for them to speak. So it's probably more than we need for our groups. Just as long as they can join without the host, they can start having conversations and not be reliant on that person to start the meeting.
Yep.
Right, so that's really the difference, Steve. Join without host means that the meeting is live when somebody joins it. Wait room means that they all go into just a kind of a blank space until the host activates the meeting, then everybody gets joined together into that main room. So it's really whatever kind of experience you want your participants to have. But for me, TMIY, I would do join before host, because then the guys can, you know.
Yeah, I'm all over that. I agree there.
Gentlemen and Ann, any other questions I can help you with tonight?
Great meeting, Brian.
Yeah,
really,
very, very helpful.
I feel somewhat more confident.
Wonderful.
I do have one more question.
All right.
The person who is our host, in charge of That Manage You, is not very technically current, and he's thinking that the virtual machine should be totally separate from the regular meeting. So I'm trying to say that he should stand at his podium with a laptop, talk to everybody in the class. Then that we have another computer that projects it to the screen, and then we could set up the virtual session for those people that come in virtually and then rejoin after the breakout sessions. He feels that's a little bit too complicated. What do I do to help him with that?
Have him give me a call. I'll be happy to
Okay.
talk with him directly.
So the other concept I try to use with my team at work is we are committed but not attached. We're committed to the success but not attached to how we get there. And if you could get them to at least agree to that, then just try the different methods and maybe you can show them it will work.
Yeah, and if you've never done it and you're new to it, there's a lot of moving parts. I mean, obviously we're doing this tutorial after having done a lot of learning in the spring. And heck, I'll be honest, we did that Missionaries to the Family Retreat 5 minutes before the, well, maybe it was 30 minutes before the retreat. I didn't know that I couldn't run 2 separate Zoom accounts off the same computer using a private browser window. And I had to go scrounge for an old laptop that I hope still worked just to get this retreat off the ground. I mean, I was that close, right? So it can be intimidating at first. But that's why I said, have him give me a call. If you like, George, that doesn't make you the bad guy. That doesn't make you seem like you're pushing an agenda. And what I can do is set a time and just answer every one of his questions. And the same for all of you. You know, it's great to feel comfortable, you know, on a help session like this. You're going to go to sleep. You're not going to deal with this for a couple of days. You might have other questions that come up. Please reach out. Don't think that all you get is one. We're also going to make a video out of this. You can go back to the video, you know, fast forward and all that. But we're really here to help you, as Vince so eloquently put it, move forward in whatever way you can. You know, the reality is, because of COVID, there's more pressure on men now than there ever has been before in so many different ways, and they need this nourishment. Obviously, TMIY is not the only way men can get nourishment. We know that. But for the ones who desire to do it, and for you who desire to try to help them, we're here to help you.
We just this last week broke off our small groups for them to physically be with themselves, with each other, in a garage, with your distancing, you know, with all the protocol that you recommend with that. You pour one guy pours coffee, you have pre-prepared bags of food, nourishment for them. So, and then we just had chairs all the way around the garage. I think there was like 8 guys in that garage because it was raining outside. And when it stopped raining, then, you know, we'll sit on the back deck or we'll sit out on the grass, because that's what this is. Right? We are so much in need of that.
Amen. I'm in an Exodus 90 group here in Dubuque that's made up of TMIY guys. Jim Munson, who was on the call, is part of that group. And we sat in April in bag chairs in a parking lot, freezing our tails off because we wanted that, you know, interaction. And in fact, there was a cop that drove by and asked us what we were doing. It's 8 guys sitting in bag chairs in a parking lot, and we're like, you think we're getting rowdy here, officer? I mean, like, so anyway, but I mean, guys really need it. So I truly want to thank each and every one of you for the work that you're doing. If we can be of help, reach out to me, reach out to your program coordinator. If you can't get your program coordinator, call Ann Bass. I'm kidding, Ann. We overwhelm Ann with phone calls.
I usually answer the phone, so I'll get you one way or the other. Don't worry.
That's true. That's right.
So Keith, can we talk just in terms of, did you get hurt by the hurricane winds?
Oh, Steve, thank you for asking. The derecho, or however they say that, it was crazy. That was the equivalent of Category 4 hurricane winds. And actually, those hit about 45 miles south of us. We had part of the storm, but it was super mild. And along the I-80 corridor, which is about 45, 50 minutes south of us, it just looks like there was a swath that just came through. We have a lot of TMIY guys have family in Cedar Rapids. That area was hard hit. I gave generators, chainsaws, shovels. One guy in my group, his daughter lives in Cedar Rapids, and they literally couldn't get out of their street because trees had fallen on both sides. Nobody had chainsaws, power was out, you know, the whole thing. So they got walloped pretty bad. And I know, you know, a lot of parts of the country, but it was
I don't think you know this, but in the Field of Dreams, quite a few of my relatives were in that processional at the end of the movie.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, you're right there, Dubuque. You're right there, Manchester. You're right there, Dyersville, Coggin.
Yep.
Yeah. So my sister lost 50 trees, didn't damage the house, but my classmates, well, so it would be one of our neighbors when I was going to school there. One of our neighbors lost their son. There were 3 people who were killed with that storm, and he happened to be the guy who was riding the bike in the park when the tree fell on him.
Oh my gosh.
So out of 4 that died in that entire storm, the randomness of how things happen where they do, it just happened to hit that family. And I can tell you, this is coming from the family itself. Their Catholic strength has just pulled them through that whole event. If you can imagine, the mom, the wife gave the eulogy.
Oh my goodness.
The wife actually gave about a half-an-hour eulogy of her husband, Tom.
Wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
And the crazy thing for us is that thing popped up out of nowhere.
Well,
I mean, there was very little warning. We knew we were going to get some rain and maybe scattered thunderstorms, but within a matter of a very short period of time, all kinds of warnings were going off. And I mean, I thought to I actually ran out and put all my lawn furniture away, you know, because they were making such a big deal about it. I had a bunch of stuff out in the yard that, you know, and we got in Dubuque, we got very little, but then we heard everything come in afterwards. It was just like, you got to be kidding me. People were asking, was it tornadoes? And no, there really weren't. It was just an incredible wind front that went through.
Sheer strength. It just popped the tree, uprooted the trees.
Yep.
Was didn't snap the tree off. It just uprooted them.
Just tipped them.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for asking. I appreciate that.
I'm glad to hear that you came through that unscathed.
Yeah. So keep the folks obviously from that in your prayers. The folks from the recent hurricane, you know, down in East Texas and West Louisiana, and then they're getting some flooding up in the Northeast, as I understand it. So obviously, and then we've got wildfires in Denver. There's a lot of things to keep in our prayers. California, yep, a lot of things to pray for. Guys, speaking of that, do you mind if we close in prayer and then we'll be done?
Right.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Dear Lord, in a real and special way, you say, wherever 2 or more are gathered in your name, there you are in the midst of them. We ask you to be with us as we continue to do your work to help bring the news and the message of authentic male leadership to the men of our parishes. Be with us now. Send us your spirit of strength, fortitude, patience, and persistence as we continue to prepare. And we pray all of this through the intercession of Our Lady as we say, Hail Mary, full of grace.
The Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now at the hour of our death. Amen.
Amen. St. John Paul II, pray for us. Thank you all very much this evening, and let me know if you have any other questions. This video should be up and on the web by tomorrow afternoon.
Much appreciated.
Thanks again, Brian. Really helpful.
Yes, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Guys.